Hey, I'm Avalaura.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Black Leave America podcast, where we highlight holistic wellness, travel, mental health, and self-care through traveling outside of America to reconnect and rediscover who you are. It's time for us to leave any condition that disrupts our peace. Black Women Leave America opens your eyes and explores new ways of living, but more importantly, new ways of being. Because sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. Welcome to Black Women Leave America, where sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. I am your host, Avalaura.
And I am Jessica.
And today we are meeting or talking to Celesté. I love her name, y'all. I called her Celeste. She was like, no, it's actually Celesté. Celesté Lawson. And I'm really excited about today's topic, or not really topic per se, but her story. Because for those of you all who are thinking about relocating to another country, like you've been watching us for a while and you're like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm convinced already. I just need to know what to do. She's your girl. So we're definitely going to talk about that as well. So thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me.
You are so welcome. And first and foremost, what I would like to know is just tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Costa Rica, because that's where you are now. So is that the first country that you've been in? Have you been in countries before then and you decided to settle there? Like, how did you end up there?
So I was in the military, so it's not my first rodeo abroad. I was deployed. My first international trip was my deployment to Iraq for a year.
Oh, wow.
I actually wrote about all of this in a travel anthology that just came out this month called Book the Flight Already.
Okay.
And so that's pretty exciting. We topped 10 travel categories on our release date. But from there, I also lived in Kuwait for a year as a defense contractor. And so this is my third move abroad. And so pretty much winter 2019, I retired through the military, and there are a couple of reasons why I decided to leave the US. One, cost of living, because it's like, well, now my income is about half of what it is. So I have to figure that out. And then two, I was just sick of the cold. So I've been living in Maryland for about 7 years.
I love Maryland. And it's cold right now.
Yeah, I hate the cold. So anybody that knows me, they're like, why do you live there? I was tied to the cold weather and the cold people.
The cold people. That's real. You know what? I tell people all the time, they're like, when they go north, they're like, people are so rude. I said, Joe, it's cold. We don't have time to talk and be like, hey, how you doing? How's your auntie? We're trying to get from point A to point B. It's cold. So yes, that's there's realness to that.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote in my chapter that, I was going through a really rough time at that time mentally, just being triggered from PTSD. So actually, no, I had gone back to Iraq in January of 2019. I took a job as a defense contractor again. And all of 3 weeks before like my deployment, everything, just all the PTSD started to come back. And so I remember like around October, November timeframe, like I realized that every Friday I was walking through the grocery store sobbing and nobody ever asked me, was I okay? I was like,
Wow.
Yeah. So I was just like, yeah, it's time to find somewhere else. So I went home. I started searching. I literally Googled temperate climates.
I love the Google searches.
And then I came across Ecuador and Brazil. And so I was looking there, specifically in Salvador, Brazil. I had come across like some some video online about a Black therapist who had left DC and moved there. She left her thriving practice and was, living her best life in Brazil. And apparently that place has the second highest concentration of Black people outside of Nigeria. Yes.
Wow.
I was like, why have I never heard of this place?
I'm
So
like, what is it? What's the place? I never heard
Salvador,
of this.
yeah.
It's called what?
Salvador, Brazil.
Okay, so I was thinking of Bahia. Okay.
Yeah, same place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but for whatever reason, it was so difficult to figure out how to even book a flight there, let alone move there. So at the time, Southwest, they were advertising sales on flights to Costa Rica. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I can figure out my life on a beach in Costa Rica. So I put my condo on the market, and I was initially supposed to leave January 26, 2020, actually the day that Kobe Bryant passed away. And so I remember waking up that morning thinking, oh, I don't feel like a good day to fly. And then a couple of hours later, I see that and I feel terrible.
Wow.
So I didn't leave that day, but it worked out because the buyer's financing fell through. And so we got a new deal on the table. I had already been kind of hearing grumblings about the coronavirus, but back then it was
I was
just
about to say, you got out before COVID.
So I rebooked my flight for March 1st.
Wow.
Like the end of February came and I'm like, I don't care what's going on. I'm getting on this plane. I'm getting out of here. I put all my stuff in storage literally the day before, got on the flight. I'm in this big fur coat. And this lady, she's sitting next to me. She's like, where are you coming from? That was so cold. So I get to Costa Rica, it's like 95 degrees. I got like 2 suitcases and a duffel bag. One of them was full of high heels. Yeah. And so I'm on the Pacific coast in the beach town. And I get there and I'm just decompressing for a couple of weeks. I'm just going to the beach and the pool. And then as I'm ready to emerge and travel the rest of the country, maybe move on to Europe or actually make it to Brazil. And then fortunately, I had signed up for the STEP program with the Department of State. And so they're like, okay, well, the borders are closing in 2 days. So if y'all leaving, you got 2 days because the airports are going to close. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, because back then we're like, oh, this will be over by June.
Exactly.
I could go back.
Remember.
Yeah, I can go back, sign my closing docs, because like the deal, remember I said, I don't care what's going on this time. So I can go back, sign my closing docs, maybe get a few things out of storage, and then come back and figure out what's next. It's like, but do you really want to sleep on your mom's couch? Like, no. So like got this place for the rest of the month and then just figure it out from there. So I decided to stay. And then, like I was telling Jessica, when I got to Costa Rica, I was adamant about not dating or meeting anybody. So I was like 6 months out of a situationship. And so when I decided to stay, so I was like, well, I guess I might as well meet somebody. And so my husband, he hates that I tell people this story, but I think it's important.
Y'all heard that? She said my husband. Jump from not dating to my husband. I just wanted to make sure y'all think that. Okay, so I need to stop you for a minute. Jessica, I know you got questions, but I have so many questions, right?
Okay.
So you had been abroad for military, right?
Yeah.
Which is work.
Yes.
You had never been to Costa Rica before.
No.
And you just said, I'm out and I'm selling my condo and everything. You didn't like go visit nowhere and say, let me check this out first and then come back home. You just said, I am out.
Yes.
Wow. I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly. Like I didn't miss a step. So y'all, sometimes people just do it. You know what I mean? Like they just do it. No planning. No, let me, we talked to some people who are digital nomads who are, let me try this place. Let me try that place. No, you just went for it all in. I'm here for it. Jessica, you got any questions? Because I got more, but
No, I was into the story. I was going on. I'm like, okay, what happened next?
I'm like we done jumped from not dating to husband. We done jumped from like we in cold Maryland to 90 degrees. Like so much is happening here.
Look, Celesté, continue.
Okay, so you had rented a place. Was it like an Airbnb in Costa Rica?
I
Okay,
went
so
on Airbnb and found a studio, which I would find out later was pretty overpriced. I paid $800 for a studio for the month. The following month it was like $350.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. But that's less than most people's rent here. So
Yeah.
okay. So
yeah,
wow.
so there's 2 seasons in Costa Rica. There's the dry season, high season. So that's so on the Pacific coast, that's December to April. So there's no rain at all. And that's where most people are vacationing, especially from Canada. And then there's the green season, the wet season, rainy season that starts from like late April through November-ish.
Okay.
And so the housing prices correspond with those times as well.
So they fluctuate based on that. That makes sense. Wow. Okay. So you ended up there. COVID happens. So you stay.
Yes.
Thinking that like everybody else, it was just gonna pass. So what happened?
So like I said, I was adamant about not meeting anybody. And then I decided, well, since I'm gonna be here, I guess I might as well meet somebody. So I went on Tinder and I had a very specific and very straightforward profile. So I got like 3 swipes. And so it was one local guy that I just don't even remember at this point. I don't even think we had any conversations. There was a Black guy, the Mr. checks all the boxes, must have been there on vacation or something. And then my now husband. And so I was telling Jessica, like, when I go back and read our messages, I don't know why I thought he spoke English. So when we met, he was a basic English and I was a basic Spanish. And between the 2 of us, we're both bilingual.
So he's from Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Wow. He didn't speak English. I love it.
I was like, I must have been horny because I don't know why I thought he spoke English.
Some things require no words. Okay?
Well, most of our early conversations were facilitated by Google Translate.
I was about to say Google Translate. So are you proficient in Spanish now?
Yes.
And he's proficient in English?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is the whole thing. Okay, so how long did that take to move from I'm not dating to meeting this guy?
Oh, okay.
People to now we married.
Yeah. So I decided to stay. So it was like March 18th is when the airport shut down. And we met on April 2nd.
I gotta stop you for a minute. I need y'all to know that was the day after my birthday.
Oh wow.
And the same thing. So in here in Maryland, it was the day before my birthday. So March 16th, everything shut down. So all of my birthday plans were shut down. I just need y'all to know that. Please continue.
Okay. So April 2nd is the day that we actually connected and decided to meet up, which is actually coincidentally the day of my original return flight from Costa Rica to go back to the States. So I always joke with people that the whole world had to shut down for us to get together.
So what was that like, dating in a new country that you didn't even know you were going to stay in, dating somebody who was from that country? So the cultural differences, right? So how did you all manage that? How did that work?
Well, we decided to move in together probably about after 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, we decided to quarantine together. It wasn't gonna work any other way.
Y'all, she did everything unconventional.
So was this like love at first sight type of thing? Was it like, oh wow, like, like I barely know what you're saying, but I get it. Was that the thing or what?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
It does feel like an experiment, right? Like Love is Blind.
Coincidentally, before I left, I had considered Married at First Sight, but they weren't taking single parents. So
wow, y'all. I love this. I love
so
it.
I guess maybe I decided to make my own.
Listen, you sure did. So 2-3 weeks in, y'all decide to move into. How did that work?
So I had my own 2-bedroom apartment, but it was in a gated community, and they were just like extra with the COVID rules. They wouldn't let me have visitors. I was always over at his house anyway, so I'm just like, okay, well, why not? So yeah, we decided to move in together. With the cultural differences, the language barrier, it was just like, if we really want to give this a shot, it was, I don't know, it's just kind of like, and I write about this in my chapter, like when we met, and it just felt like a meeting of the souls. Like we had met all this time ago and just decided to meet again at this place and this time. Mm-hmm. And so it was just kind of like, if we're going to make this work, then we just got to jump all in.
Wow. So how did he propose? When did he propose? Like, how did that all happen?
Well, I'm not a person to be proposed to, I guess I would say.
Y'all, she is all the way unconventional. Okay.
So literally just one night I started thinking, I was like, hey, so how about, I was thinking, and he's like, well, since you brought it up, I was planning the next time I went to Nicaragua to come back with her. It's like, well, I'm glad we had this conversation because I have some ideas about what I want my ring to look like.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not. That would be me. Like, I need to show you what I like because I want you to.
And just so we know, like this is the same for American guys as it is everywhere else. They need to be told. They do not know.
Right. I mean, he knew he wanted to, but he was gonna go all the way to Nicaragua to get a ring. He might not have got the right ring.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. So he was born in Nicaragua, but was adopted by a Costa Rican woman when he was 7. So he actually, last year, he started a livestock business on his biological family's farm there. So he goes back every 6 months or so to kind of change over the livestock. And so he was planning on one of those trips to get a ring and come back.
Now, is this
I love this.
I do too. And I feel like in another episode, we had a conversation with someone who, she was kind of looking for, I guess, what we look for in America, like that tall, has it all together, has all the money, and so I want to ask you this because it just keeps coming back, right? And it's like, should I ask that? I'm gonna ask. Did he have those boxes checked, like all the things that you would have possibly looked for in an American man, right? The money, the success, the blah, 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 blah.
So it's interesting that you asked me that. So I write about this as well in the chapter. He did not. And so I developed the mantra like right before this period, that sometimes we meet the best people on the other side of our preferences, aka prejudices. Yeah. And so initially, if I was going off what my initial checklist would have been, he would not have met what I thought I was looking for, but he turned out to be exactly what I needed. And in terms of like financial, so I am like the breadwinner in the relationship. And so when we met, so he's a massage therapist, and in the off season, he also would do home remodeling. Mm-hmm. So as the pandemic starts, there's like absolutely no opportunity for him to work at all. And so this is a part of this conversation that we had. So also, I recently read a book called The Relationship Blueprint. And in that book, the authors on their first date, they actually sat down and wrote out or created their relationship contract about, how it would go, finances and everything like that. So essentially we had that conversation as well. So it was just kind of like, I just made the decision to where, and it was interesting because I was in a struggle at that period in my life to where I'm like, do I want to find a man that's gonna, make more money than me and take care of me? Like, do I want to go that traditional route? And then like, do I need to tell him about like my income that's coming in? Or do I want to be in like an equal income relationship, or am I okay with being with someone who doesn't make as much income as I do? And so I was like having that internal battle. And then just when it was presented in front of me, I just decided, okay, like, what do we need to do to make this work? And so we had that conversation and we went from there.
I think this is such an important conversation. So I think my first question is like, what was it about him, right? That you said, I want to make this work? Because I think a lot of times that's what happens is we decide for whatever reason is not worth it to me, right? I'm not willing to do the work. I'm not willing to invest the time, energy, effort, sit down, have the conversations, discuss these things to make it work.
Learn another language.
Exactly. So yeah, so why him? Like what was the driving force to say, you know what, this is it. We gonna figure this out.
Yeah. So from our early conversations, I could see that he was ambitious, that he was traveled. So he had traveled to Cuba, Europe, some places that even I haven't been in, which is not the norm for, natives in these areas. So, the fact that he had the initiative to get a passport and travel. So, we both had that in common. So like I was upfront, I was like, look, I'm planning whenever this clears up, like I'm planning to travel. Like I need somebody that can roll.
You need a passport.
Yeah, so just, I don't know, it's just, I could tell that he was, okay, so I know what it was. He really reminded me of my grandfather. Like they had the same hands. And this is so funny because I remind him of his grandfather. So he's from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. So like he's like conventionally fair skinned, but his grandfather died when he was young and he was darker skinned with afro hair. And he's always like, he loves my afro. And he wants to have a little morenito, a little black baby like his grandfather with hair like that.
I love it. And I think that's important for people to hear because so often, I work with women. Well, I should say most of my clients are women, and most of them are very successful in their careers. They make very good money. They have all the trappings of success, the house, the cars, the clothes, all of that, but their relationships are in the toilet. And I think that this is such a valid conversation because it's so real. Like so many of us go through this. And what's funny is my journey is actually very similar to yours, right? And I know you were saying like, this is your second marriage, right? And so for me, I met my boo, who, we'll see. I didn't have that. Well, I didn't tell him like when is he proposing? Cause but we've had those conversations, but we met during COVID as well. Okay. We actually met in, I think it was August of 2020. And so we kind of did end up kind of quarantining. He basically moved in without moving in. So, but the same thing that, traditionally not making the money that I'm used to, I'm definitely the breadwinner, so to speak. But the way that this man treats me, I've never, and I've been, like I said, I've been married, and my ex-husband, all in all, good dude. But this man treats me like a whole queen. Like he literally does everything for me. I have no doubt in my mind at any point in time that this man loves me, is faithful, will do anything for me. He did these backgrounds, y'all. He's the bomb graphic designer, the t-shirts and stuff we got coming out. He did all that. Like, as soon as he met me, he was like, oh no, your logo is not gonna work. He redid all my stuff. He just took over, y'all. Took over. So even though he wasn't making the money, I was like, this man adds tremendous value to my life. And so do I want to overlook this for somebody else? Because I've dated a lot of men who make money and they're assholes. Like, and this dude is just like, he deals with me because I'm not necessarily an easy person in a relationship. I got my opinions. And I express them. He cooks for me every day. I was just like, I need to rethink my whole value system right now. So I understand. And sometimes, like, we really need to do that. Like, we need to get out of this whole, checkbox thing, because he's short. I was telling Justin, I was like, I've never dated anybody this short before.
Yeah.
Like, everybody I dated was like 5'10", 5'11", 6'3", 6'5", 6'7". I'm only 5'2", but it don't matter. It's short. I let all of that go. It's not even important anymore. I don't even care.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I didn't even know I liked mangoes so much till you started cutting them up for me every day.
The visual I just got with the mangoes. But anyway, okay.
Thanks. Like, if he allows you, we like to share a picture, but if he doesn't, but now I'm like, in my mind of like putting you guys, like, you all are living, you're gonna probably have a permanent movie in my head of, oh, she reminds him of his grandpa with afro, and they're gonna have little afro babies.
I love it. So what do your families think? Like, I'm assuming, have you met his family and all of that? And what about your family?
I've met most of his family. I'm actually meeting my mother-in-law this weekend for the first time. She's coming over to stay for a month. So we started the process of adopting one of his nieces. And so with all of our tours and the wedding next month, we'll be out of the house most of the time. So my mother-in-law is going to come here and stay with her while she's in school.
So the family that you have met, how have they been?
Very accepting, open. I mean, most don't speak English, but I mean, it's expected.
But you speaking Spanish now, right? Like, this is bilingual at least.
Yeah, but for me, it's important that for anybody that wants to have like a ongoing close relationship with me, they need to meet me halfway and at least attempt to learn English.
Nah, I feel you.
I want to move into, because I know we're running low on time as well. I want to move into some of the work that you're doing as well. So can you talk a little bit about the work that you are doing now and how you're helping women kind of tell us what you're doing? I'm not going to summarize it. Tell us what you're doing.
So like Avalaura mentioned, it's not everyone can just up and leave the country and just basically pick a place on the map and just go there.
Oh, I'm bad with directions. I would have got lost right off the bat. Like, that's why I have, it's funny you guys are talking about your husbands and your booze. Like, when I met my husband, he was light skinned. I was like, oh, I don't know. I want Tupac. I want black with the bald head, dark skin. You too light. Like, what is that? Right? But like, he cooks, he cleans, he goes to work, like the whole thing. Sometimes it comes in a different package. Like, if I go somewhere, I'm calling him. Like, where do I go? I'm not with you. Like, and he's like on a map, like talking me through. Okay, turn right. Okay, are you in the left? Okay, call me when you get out. Oh yes, some of us are direction challenged. So go keep going. I just wanted to say that for all of us that are direction challenged.
Yeah. So about 6 months into my retirement, I found that I needed some purposeful work.
And how old are you, if you don't mind telling us?
I'll be 39. So I'm getting married on my birthday, which is next.
Wow. Okay. So so what age were you when you actually retired?
36, 36, 37.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm hustling backwards, but anyway, go ahead.
So I started a chapter of a social club here, a Black women's social club. And from there, we kind of started to just kind of I would plan trips for us across different areas of Costa Rica. And so we'd go explore places together. And so also at that time, I got involved with the Black Expats in Costa Rica Facebook group. And so we're about 2,500 strong now. And I found myself in a lot of different groups, just answering questions about like my story and the process, and just kind of like, I'm that person where even though I do like make fast decisions, I do like I can jump in and do research really quickly and collate information really fast.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot about the law and residency and shipping and different topics. And so I was answering questions, and it got to be about 10 to 20 hours a week. And so I started to think like, well, how's the best way that I can answer questions, help people, but then also honor my time.
Yeah.
But then I also had this idea that came to me because the question that I would get the most is like, well, where should I move? Like, because when people think of Costa Rica, they think of the country as almost kind of like a city. It's actual whole country. It's small, but it's very diverse. It's like 26 different microclimates.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And then they wanted to know, well, where are all the Black people?
Exactly.
So I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if somebody could put together like some type of experience that would allow people to find the best fit community, like place to live, housing that fit their budget, lifestyle, and preferences, explore some culture, but then also have the opportunity to meet and network other local expats that already live there, ask questions, and build community. And so that's where Melanin Tours, my company, was born.
I love it. And so we got connected from one of my clients who was going through just that, you know, and working together. And she decided like Costa Rica was a place that she wanted to visit. And that's exactly what happened. She was doing all this research. And I think I said, you know, there's, you know, all of these Facebook groups, why don't you join? And then she found you, she was just like, oh my God, that was a lifesaver. Because before I was trying to do all this research, I was talking to all these people, I was trying to plan my whole thing, and she just playing the whole thing. And I was just like, awesome. So I totally get that. And so with that, what would you say is some advice for someone who is looking at Costa Rica? Now, some people might be looking at Costa Rica. Some people might be like you. They don't really know where they want to go, but they just know they need to go somewhere else. Like they're done. They ready. They just out, deuces.
Yeah. So, and I think this kind of falls under your umbrella in terms of like the life coaching, just kind of really sitting down and thinking about, what do I want my life to look like?
Yeah.
Like, what's my ideal day? That's exactly what I did in 2019. I wrote out exactly what my ideal day looks like, you know, with the imaginary husband and everything involved. And from there, I just started to build my life around that dream. And so I would say, just figure out what you want your life to look like and find the place that matches the best. There are still people who decide that do want to jump in, and they decide they want to do their planning all their own, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm here to serve the people who don't have the time or the interest in doing it themselves.
Because it's a lot, you know, you talking about uprooting your whole life and moving to another country. That's a lot. Now, you also mentioned that you have children. So where are your children, and how is that working with them?
I have one daughter. She's 19, and
Okay.
So I left when she was 16, and she decided that she was not ready to live her best life abroad. And so she finished her last 2 years of high school in South Carolina with her dad, and she's still not ready to live her best life abroad. So she's still there in South Carolina. She did come to visit you? Yeah, she came last year for 3 weeks.
Awesome. And so I think that's important to know as well, because a lot of women have children, right? And they're like, how can I do this when I have children? And so what I love about your story is you just like, listen, I got to focus on me. I have all this stuff going on. This is not the business. I can't live like this anymore. And so I am going to take action now. And I'm not going to let anything, discourage me. I'm not going to let it, not even a house, falling through the clothes and nothing. Like, we going to do this come hella high water. And I think that people need to hear that, because a lot of times we do have a dream or we have a vision for ourselves and we let life distract us, right? Exactly. And get in the way.
I think, well, definitely that's exactly what happens. I told my daughter when she started high school that I was like, when you go to college, I'm leaving the country again. And 2 years later, I was just like, you know what? I can't even do it. Like, I cannot do one more day. Like, I would love for you to come with me. And, in her defense, I was kind of just like, you know what? You could just get your GED and travel the world with me.
But I love that you're saying, hey, I need to do this for me. And I think for a lot of parents, we do so much for our children, and we don't see that as an effect of like taking care of ourselves. They get to see us take care of ourselves, and that's even more beneficial to them than to just stay in a place where we know we won't be very helpful because we're going through whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about PTSD. There are some parents, I do a lot of advocacy work in maternal mental health and things to that effect. Maternal mental health is not only when after you have the baby, it's the whole time after you have a child, up until really whenever, even when they become adults, sometimes you're still dealing with some of those after effects of becoming a parent. So I love the fact that you're saying, hey, you know what, I'll give you an option, but I need to do this for me, and I need to make sure that mom is taken care of in order to be able to take care of you and be the best person for you.
I mean, that's self-care. Like, that really is that's what self-care is all about, and making yourself the priority, and not just talking about it and not just saying I wish, but actually finding a way to implement and take action that's necessary for you. And what I also love about that, and I mean, and there's a lot of people might be watching who might be judging like, that ain't right. I would have waited. You can't leave your baby, or, you talking about getting your GED, and I get it, right? But I also think that, now you are an inspiration to your child, you know what I mean? And really learning like what it means to advocate for yourself and what it means to take care of yourself. And like, for me, my mother, I tell people all the time, like, and my mother might be watching this. I love you, Mom. But, my mom is not the easiest woman to get along with. I'll tell everybody, but I love her dearly. But my mother taught me very early on how to be confident in myself, and how to go after my dreams and do what's important to me. When I was in high school and she always wanted to be a lawyer. She was working full time, had 3 kids, and decided to go to law school. And, she's a lawyer and been doing very well. And that showed me I can do whatever I want. And so even though it was hard for the family and there was a lot of sacrifices, like my father had to end up doing pretty much everything, because she really, she did not have any time. And there were certain things I think that my brother and sister missed out on that I got because I was the oldest. But it still allowed me to see, like, there's no excuses. Like, I really find a way to do what's important to me, find a way what's going to, make me happy, find a way to do the things that are going to best take care of me. And so there is value to that.
But I mean, in turn, that also comes back to you, right? Like, you're benefiting from her being a lawyer, I'm sure.
Yes.
On a lot of different
ways. Absolutely. Let me tell you something. All my contracts go to my mom. Let me be clear.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I feel like that decision gave my daughter the courage to chart her own path and live life on her terms, because I really wanted her, even after she graduated, I wanted her to come to Costa Rica. I made her offer that, so she initially enrolled in LSU online. And so we had made a plan that she would come down to Costa Rica. I'd get her own apartment. She'd do a Spanish immersion program. The military or the VA was going to pay for like 98% of her school, healthcare, the whole nine. But she made a decision for herself that she wanted to stay in South Carolina, that she's not ready to live abroad. And so I'm proud that she's decided, like, this is my life. I'm going to live it on my terms. You have inspired me. You show me what's possible. And now I'm going to do it my way.
Oh, girl, she coming. She just ain't listening right now. But anyway, she
coming. I love it.
Like, I feel like as a mom to a mom, I feel like it's going to be one of those situations like, oh, you was right. I probably should just go.
Oh, yeah, I'm waiting. With open arms.
Exactly, right? We never push it back on them. We're just like, okay, come on. And in the back of our mind, we're like, I told you a long time ago. I know you. Like, I had you. So
I'm like 98%. God, sign me up.
Sign me up. I know. Can you adopt now? Can you adopt 40-year-olds? No.
We already got one adoption in.
Right? She's like, we're good. We got enough over here.
Yeah. So okay. So before we leave, I know we've covered a lot, and everybody's gonna have questions. Tell us about the wedding.
Yes. So we actually legally got married in November of last year, but we decided to have a ceremony for family and friends to come to, which is funny because 90% of the guests are clients. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like,
for your family.
When you work with Melanin Tours, you are truly family. So we were living on the Pacific Coast for about 2 years. And so, like I mentioned, during October, that's the rainy season. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I'm not having a rainy wedding. So I started looking on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. But it was just really expensive to plan a wedding there. But there's a small chain of islands off the coast of Costa Rica and Panama called Bocas del Toro. And so I had initially found a wedding package on a private island for like $5,000. And so I was like, okay, this is it. So so we decided to go with that place, not that venue, because someone had booked a retreat there during that time. But we went out to Panama earlier this year and we found another venue. And so it's going to be a small, intimate wedding, but we're excited.
I need that information.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Sidebar, that wasn't for the podcast, but that's okay. We'll keep it rolling.
This is for me as much as it's for y'all, okay?
I know, right? And this is a great fun. This is a great fun for the commercial to come in, right? Melanin Tours, where you can get.
Wow.
Such a beautiful story.
No, it is. I mean, you're talking about leaving to find yourself, like leaving to find your whole life.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Any closing thoughts or anything that you want to make sure that you share with our audience? I think you said some important things that, your personality, you can jump, right? Some people may not be willing or not able, like that's just not their thing. They're not comfortable with that.
Well, not only that, yeah, when I did it, it was a different time frame. So when I first got here, we lived in 6 apartments before we found like our first 1-year rental. But we were only able to do that because it was the pandemic. And so pricing was a lot lower and we didn't need to sign year-long contracts to get good rates. So, that's one thing. And then 2, I left by myself. And so I didn't have like a whole lot of requirements about what I needed. So majority of my clients that I work with are like busy professionals, digital nomads, that and families with small children. So there's certain things that they absolutely need, like good schools, infrastructure, good internet, places where they can flush toilet paper down the toilet.
The things we take for granted.
Yeah, so I take the guesswork out of a lot of those things for them. And then one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't think about is having a tribe and building community when you, especially when you move to a place where most of the culture does not look like you.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's something that I really struggled with when I first got here, because for the first 3 or 4 months, I literally thought I was the only Black girl in town. But then it turns out there was like a whole community with us. So when I started the social club, it was just eye-opening about how important it is to have community. And so like that's probably the favorite part of the tour that I offer for people, is that networking dinner at the end.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Community is self-care too. I am a huge proponent of community and finding your tribe, you know, wherever it is that you go. And so do you have plans to, you know, move anywhere else? Or I know you have plans to travel, or is like Costa Rica it?
I won't say it's it for us. So my husband and my niece, they really want to live in the US. For years.
You're like, no.
I'm hoping if we just go for a visit, they're like, okay, no, I'm good.
I was just literally about to say that. They'll probably come and be like, oh, this is cool. Oh, yeah, no, that's okay. Cool. We can go back.
Yeah, so so we're open. When we visited Antigua, Guatemala earlier this year, and I was in love that week. Like I was ready to move that week. And he was like, okay, so he's the anchor. He's like, okay, hold on. Let's think about this. If it was by myself, I probably would have gone.
I was just about to ask you if you didn't meet him. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But as we start to look at new locations to expand tours to next year, there could be a move on the horizon for us. So, but we'll see.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, you got any other questions?
No, this has been such a beautiful, beautiful like story, and a great podcast episode of just love. And
sometimes you have to leave in order to find love.
Yes.
And you can make your own show, right? With no cameras.
I mean, that's real. Also, I mean, just the manifestation, because listen, that is so me. That is so me. You just like, oh, I want to do this. And then it happened in a different way, in an unexpected way, but it happened. I love it. I appreciate you taking the time out of your literally busy schedule in the midst of planning this wedding and everything that you have going on, towards and everything like that. So thank you so much for being here, your time and your energy, and telling us your story. Thank you all for watching and learning and laughing with us. We appreciate you.
Well, where can they find you though? Before we go, where can they find you?
Oh yeah, so I'm on all social media at Melanin Tours and melanintours.com. So it's Melanin Tours.
You heard it. Until next time, y'all.